Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and today it is time for a best of 3 series of professional Zerg versus Terran. Spawning here in game number 1 on Kairos Junction LE and playing with the red Terran SCVs. He's from South Korea, one of the most accomplished Terran players of all time. We are currently looking inside of the main base of TaeJa. And his opponent spawning in the opposite corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg drones. She is a channel favorite, already going for a very quick extractor right there, as well as a very quick spawning pool. She's from Canada. We are looking inside of the main base of Scarlett. Alrighty. So apparently Scarlett has decided that she wants to start off this series playing very, very aggressively. There's a couple of different builds she can go for. For example, okay, I was gonna say, she could go for like roaches and ravagers here in the early game. Apparently though, that was just an extracted trick to bring her up to 15 out of 14 supply. If that's the case, I'm assuming that this is gonna be a quick Zergling speed upgrade with probably about 6 to 8 or so Zerglings in the earlier part of the game. And the only reason why these kind of builds work sometimes, she is gonna have to pull the drones out of gas, by the way, there we go. The only reason why these builds work sometimes is because of the fact that a lot of Terran players have gotten very, very comfortable with Zerg players going for that hatchery first. If they go for the command center on the low ground, TaeJa could actually be in a lot of trouble right here. So you see, there's no SCV scout here in the early game. The Reaper is rallied straight across the map, but I think it's not gonna catch those Zerglings as long as they take a bit of a loop around the map. The hatchery will be taken here on the low ground as well, but that is a little bit later than at command center. But look, right, these Zerglings, they're gonna move through the right-hand side of the map. And since there was no SCV scout, I don't think that TaeJa knows what's going on at this point in time. Normally, it's game number 1 of the series where we see players play really, really macro-focused. Not the case for this one. Scarlett has decided to play a little bit more aggressively. And this is one of those builds, actually, that a lot of Korean Zergs like playing as well. It's one of these more aggressive openers. A lot of Korean players like to play hyper aggressive, but there we go. Immediately, we do see a tech lab right now being constructed, but while it's being constructed, it cannot be repaired. The Reaper desperately gonna try and make its way back home. At this point, TaeJa doesn't know if it's gonna be a Zergling speed upgrade here in just a little bit as well. Zerglings are indeed now gonna be able to pick up that Marine. A lot of SCVs are forced off the line, and while the Lynx are actually not fighting them here, there's still a lot of lost mining time already. So that is a lot of idle SCVs at this point. Even the Reaper taking a lot of damage right now, and it will be picked off. Second Marine there that just spawned also got picked off. Although the Zerglings seems like they got themselves stuck. Beautiful micro there by TaeJa. Look at that, he created a nice little wall there. Command center on the low ground, by the way, will be forced to get cancelled. And while it will be reconstructed right now inside of the main base, and not that many SCVs went down, I still think that this is a lot of damage here for TaeJa. So here's the thing, right? Yeah, now the Hellion is out, so I think this is gonna be shoot away relatively easily. Here's the thing. Every single second that an SCV or a drone or a probe is not mining, you lose in between about 0.8 to about 1 mineral a second each. So what that means is that if you have 10 SCVs on idle, you will easily lose like 500 minerals in 1 minute. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of lost mining time right there. And even though TaeJa obviously didn't lose that much here in the grand scheme of things, I still think that that Scarlett is probably going to be pretty happy about this early game opener. I'm very curious to see actually where Zerg is going to transition from here. TaeJa is going to add on that starport. We also do see him adding on the command center. So this is just going to be like a delayed variant of the 1-1-1. So it's just going to be 1 starport, 1 factory, and then 1 barracks. Scarlett, though, not going for the 3rd hatchery yet. Okay, so to put this in perspective, normally this 3rd hatchery gets taken right around 30 or so supply. That's like the normal timing that Zerg players take their 3rd base right now. We're already up to 52 here, and Scarlett hasn't really shown anything weird just yet. Double gas right now in the natural, quick lair here too. No roach warren yet. If she's gonna... Okay, I think she's gonna go for the 4th gas. Yeah. I think this is actually going to be 2-base Mutas, isn't it? This is a build actually that you wouldn't expect playing against an old school Terran player like TaeJa. The thing is, if you're going to play a build like this, it's not going to catch someone like TaeJa off guard, okay? This is this is a build that was really popular back in TaeJa's heyday. I'll go over the tournaments, by the way, that he has won in his career in just a little bit, because he's very, very successful. And I think a lot of people are probably not as familiar with TaeJa. But anyways, yeah, this is, I think, okay, there is a bailing nest now coming up. I think this has to be 2 base mutas. This one drone. Show it to us. Oh, man. The Spire indeed does go up. I love this. So, Scarlett playing a build that is certainly not standard right now. The Banshee, by the way, did make its way across the map. It did just also finish up its cloaking field upgrade. And while an Overseer is available right now, 1 queen is not going to be enough. Already 5 drones going down. And eventually, while the reinforcing queens will be able to get the pick off, that's still 5 workers that ended up going down for pretty much free there for TaeJa. You don't really want to keep those Banshees around for too long anyway. So I think that's a trade he is willing to take at this point in the game. 3rd hatchery eventually will be acquired. But here's the thing. There's a reason why these builds don't really get played very much anymore, and TaeJa has successfully analyzed roughly what it is he's going up against. He knows about the fact that there's no 3rd base just yet. He knows that it's gonna be likely a 2 base based push here for Zerg, so he has decided to now move across the map with 2 siege tanks right here, a Banshee as well as a couple of Hellions, and then a whole lot of Marines. On Kairos Junction, you can siege up in, for example, like these locations over here, and they make it very difficult for a Zerg player to engage. The queens are going to be absolutely critical. Great target firing right there by TaeJa on that creep tumor, and now the tanks are sieging up in range of that hatchery. Mutas will be constructed here. 3 of them are coming up, but the question is this going to be in time? This is a lot of Zerg though, right? That's a lot of Ling Bane, and even though they don't really have any upgrades, that still is a very healthy amount of queens. Queens, obviously the ultimate early game defense tool. They are gonna move forward right now, use all of their transfuses, and even though this spell did get nerfed quite a bit just a couple of months ago, this certainly has been really, really solid defense here by Scarlett, as it looks like she will be able to clean all of this up. Now with the mutas coming up as well, I think she knows what's going on. Although, while this is all happening, one little Banshee, being extremely pesky in the natural mineral line, is picking up kill after kill after kill. That is 15 drones. 15 drones on one Banshee. So, the Marine tank push didn't really do that much. But the Banshee's not done. That Banshee is completely catching Scarlett off guard right now. So, the mutas did make their way across the map. They got shooed away immediately as TaeJa managed to push them back with ease, just using his mutas. So even though the missile turrets and whatnot went up pretty late here, all things considered, this is one of the things that TaeJa, you know, defended against 1,000 times before. So TaeJa was extremely successful back in like 2012, 2013 or so. He, I think 2014 and whatnot as well, actually. But he basically won everything for a couple of years. Everyone was looking at TaeJa and they didn't really know how to counter him because his control was just super good. Now, at some point, he started getting wrist issues. I remember he couldn't, like, control his Marines nearly as well as he used to, just because he started having issues with his hands, which is actually very, very common. In particular with Terran players, actually, in StarCraft. They get all kinds of repetitive strain injuries, but regardless, at that point, TaeJa decided to do his mandatory military service. You can basically choose when you have to do it. I think you have to do it like before age 29 or something. I'm not sure on the specifics, but he decided to do them a little bit earlier than most pro gamers do. And yeah, after wrapping up his service recently, I think he's 24 years old right now, he has decided to come back into the game, which is really exciting because I'll give you a list, okay, after this game. I'll give you a list of his premier tournament accomplishments, because it's ridiculous. It's much bigger than many other players out there. Regardless, though, the Marines right now stemming forward, leaving one of those tanks all by themselves. I mean, I guess a couple Marines were there to defend against it as well, but way more mutas than TaeJa was expecting. And Scarlett is indeed going to be able to push that back with ease once again. Still, though, you can still see the effect right now of that one Banshee being a nuisance there, right? You can still 100% see that Scarlett doesn't have as much as you would normally expect right now. Imagine if she would have had those, I don't know, 15 or so drones mining right over here. Her advantage would be very, very obvious. Instead, right now, it is certainly a game where TaeJa can still be able to push back his opponent with ease. Now, these mutas are doing a good job, though. That's one of the things of mutas. They're not very good at fighting direct enemies, but they're very good at forcing units to stay at home. And this is buying a lot of time. Now, I wonder if these 11 drones right here from Scarlett are maybe a little much. That seems pretty greedy here. How many banelings does she have? Only 4 right now. I would like to see a couple more coming up. She is controlling where these Terran units are going very, very well. And a lot more Marines are now indeed being constructed, but there's no denying that, or I guess you don't construct Zerglings, right? But anyways, there's no denying that this is still a very scary amount of Terran units that are currently out on the map. Personally, as a Zerg player, I always get a little anxious when Zerg players don't get nearly as many banelings. I would 100% freak out right now and make as many banelings as possible, okay? But Scarlett's still very patiently flying around those mutas, slowly adding on more units. I feel like if TaeJa would have moved straight across the map when those 11 drones first got added on, that could have been a lot of damage done by Terran. But right now, obviously with those mutas continuously buying more and more time, it's only a couple seconds here and there, but it adds up really quickly. Right now, the Zerg army is looking menacing. Especially if she can delay this fight long enough for 2-2-2 to finish up. That would be quite impressive. And actually, TaeJa decides to retreat. Okay, so he makes the executive decision right there to retreat. This is one of the things that a lot of Terran players can learn from, okay? A lot of them will go for timing pushes, and then when they don't get the timing push down perfectly, they will still commit to the fight anyway. TaeJa decided to just simply, you know, cut his losses and get it over with and return back home instead. We'll see if this was the correct choice, though, because there's no denying that Zerg is looking very, very high and mighty right now once again. Scarlett managed to max out. She's getting herself the infestation pit right now. A lot of Zerglings and banelings are ready to go for the counterattack. Once again, that Terran army is moving across. One of the queens caught off guard. She will be killed with ease, but there's no denying that this is still a scary amount of Zerg, and as soon as the door is open, Scarlett decides to run in with all of those units. Is the Terran army gonna retreat back home, or is it going to commit to a fight instead? Looks like a lot of Zerglings there were picked off. 13 SCVs going down in the grand scheme of things, but I think that's manageable. At the same time, though, big amount of Zerg units are now moving across the map. Those couple of Thors being an absolute pain in the butt. They do manage to get a lot of kills there as well. They prioritize air, so this one has got 9 of those air units of the Zerg killed. They can be maneuvered around right here with those medevacs as well, and TaeJa is smelling blood. He decides to stim forward and try and go after as many of those units as possible, and it looks like TaeJa found himself a really good opener. If you can push this momentum right now and start snowballing this engagement, there's no denying he might be able to win the game right here, right now. Another Thor coming up as well. They are forcing that magic box. I love the addition right now of the Widow Mines as well, and Scarlett, even though she seemed to be in control, made one slip up, decided to engage off creep, and TaeJa capitalized on that situation immediately. Alright, so game number 2 brings us to Blue Shift LE. So I just quickly looked it up. TaeJa, back in his heyday, which is like 2012 to 2014 or so, he won a whole bunch of premier events. So when it comes to premier events only, and StarCraft tournaments basically get categorized in premier, minor, and major. When it comes to premier tournament victories only, during that time period, TaeJa won IEM Shenzhen, DreamHack Summer, Home Story Cup 9, Home Story Cup 8, Home Story Cup 7, DreamHack Winter, DreamHack Bucharest, Aces RG Summer, back-to-back 2 years in a row, and then DreamHack Valencia as well. Obviously, there's a ton of tournaments where he gets second place or third, fourth place as well. There's a lot of major tournaments that he participated in too that he also ended up winning. What I'm trying to say is that TaeJa, back in his day, was one of the very strongest Terran players in the world, and it looks like he's still got it. I mean, he's been making some very rapid improvements. He seems to get better every time I see him play. Even though game number 1 wasn't necessarily the best game for him, primarily because of that early game that didn't really work out in his favor, there's no denying that after that, it looked extremely clean, right? He didn't really make a lot of mistakes. That was super well done, and obviously that one Banshee in the middle line at the natural, completely sealing the deal there, or at the very least, slowing down a lot of that Zerg advantage. I like that game a lot. Now, obviously Scarlett, no weak player whatsoever. She's been very successful. I'm making the assumption, at least, that a lot of you know the tournaments that she has been part of. For example, last year, she ended up winning the Olympic StarCraft 2 event. It was the event leading up to the Olympics. IEM Pyeongchang, is that it? I think so. She won like $50,000 in 2018 for that, which is, you know, she certainly has been very, very successful in her own time as well. Anyways, curious to see where this game is going to take us. She has decided to not open up so aggressively once again. Just a normal hatchery on the low ground. TaeJa adjusting here. I love this. Little minor things like this make a difference between a good player and a really good player. Rather than just simply taking the gamble once again, TaeJa decided to send that SCV across the map before the Reaper is going to be committed to move across as well, which is really clever. Third hatchery, though, will be acquired here really rapidly by our Zerg player. This is before Zergling speed was even started. So really quick third base right there. But I think considering the queens and then the Zerglings are going to be out in just a little bit, I think Scarlett is going to be just fine. Is she going to pay the Reaper tax? It's kind of funny. For a long time, it was considered to be normal for Zerg players to lose one drone to a Reaper in the early game. Then for a really long time, it was considered normal. And this actually could be a big pickup. Getting that tumor, ooh, wonderfully done there by TaeJa. But then for a long time, people didn't lose any drones anymore and they started sacrificing Zerglings instead. Now TaeJa didn't really get himself any unit kills, but he did slow down the creep spread, which is really important actually. So I actually would rather lose a drone than lose a creep tumor at this point in the game. So that was nicely done right there by our Terran player. Anyways, nothing too massive. We'll see where this game is going to take us. I'm hoping we're gonna be up for a bit more of a macro game. Where TaeJa seems to really shine is just that bio-based army. A lot of Terran players right now are playing that battle mech style. For example, I've covered a lot of games of Euthermal and a lot of games of Gumiho. They're focusing their unit compositions right now heavily around Cyclones and Hellions. It feels like TaeJa is very, very good at just playing that good old mid-game Terran Widowmine Marine-based composition. And he was one of the players who actually started doing that heavily at Home Story Cup just a couple months ago. And you could see a lot of Zerg players at the top level struggling against it quite a bit. Now, obviously, that's partly due to the fact that Widowmine play wasn't very popular for a while, but TaeJa certainly showed us that he still had it. Not a creep tumor right there. Great micro, right? Like, he was one of the best micro players in the world. Still showing us that he's perfectly capable of doing exactly that. All right. Once again, we do indeed see that cloaking field upgrade coming out right now for the Banshee that will be starting up its construction in just a little bit. Stimpack already started up right now as well, so TaeJa certainly is looking to play a very similar game to game number 1. However, in this game, he didn't get behind at all in the early game. Already grabbing that third command center right now as part of the wall-off here at about 4.5 minutes. Very, very normal game to play right now in 2019. This is what most of the Terran players will be focusing on. Now, the Hellions, they are not getting any resistance just yet. Not being met by any resistance just yet, rather. That does mean, though, even though they could have probably committed to go to the mineral line, that TaeJa is going to play this a little bit more conservatively. Not going to take any risks and jump into the mineral line and then, you know, risk the counterattack and potentially lose the base over here. Instead, he's just simply backing off right when he saw that the Zerglings were trying to get the wraparound. Bailing Nest now coming up. We see the double evolution chamber right now also coming up for Scarlett. All of this going down right around the 5-minute mark. A lot of additional gases are now being taken, and I think as soon as she finishes up droning on 3 bases, she's likely gonna start adding on even more gas. Curious to see if she's gonna go for Mutas once again. Hydras, of course, still very, very popular. Hydraling Bane, even though Hydras did receive a nerf, they are certainly still very strong. And I'm curious to see if she's gonna go Hydras in this case, or if she's opting to go for once again the Mutalisk play. Well, that one Banshee cloaked immediately, got himself 1 kill. Is that a drone kill? Nope, was just a Zergling kill, I suppose, or maybe a creep tumor. That certainly has been a good defense so far by Zerg, though. So I always get a little bit worried if I'm a Terran player and I don't do any damage to Zerg. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of Zerg players, or why a lot of Terran players rather jump with their Hellions into a mineral line if they have the option. If you don't slow down Zerg whatsoever, they can just simply deal so much damage in the mid-game. Well, here we go. Hellions are moving forward. To try to figure out if it's safe to go. A little bit indecisive there, actually, by TaeJa. But anyways, I'm always a little bit worried when I see Terran players dealing no damage, really, when it comes to the Zerg economy. Because Scarlett is going to be able to run away with the amount of workers very easily. So once again, Spire coming up. We see the +1/+1 coming up here as well. Macro hatchery, fort base. I mean, everything is going really well right now for our Zerg player. Usually it's the Terran players that really need to deal some damage, because otherwise Zerg just runs away with the victory. So finally a couple of worker kills do come in, but Obviously, as soon as the mutas are out, those Banshees are not going to be able to achieve too much. So I wouldn't even mind it right now if TaeJa decided to commit a little bit more aggressively right here to those drones. Anyhow, looks like we've got a very laid-back macro game. So this is my personal favorite kind of game to watch. I know a lot of people look at this and be like, huh, I like it when they cheese. I like it when the game gets really aggressive. And I like it when it ends at the 3-minute mark. It's like, well, okay, I understand that, but what's most impressive to me usually at this level of play is the late game army control. I love seeing those late game transitions and the way that they control these really big, massive armies. And I think we may very well be in for that right now, because neither player really taking any unnecessary risks. Well, I mean, I guess a little bit of a risk right here when it comes to spreading the creep tumors, but there's no denying right now that that Zerg is looking really, really healthy here. I think this is actually the sweet spot for Zerg to be in, right? Like, you can start droning up straight to 80 drones. Mutas are coming up right now. +2/+2 will be started. I wouldn't be surprised to see a hive going up within a minute as well. This is like the Zerg sweet spot, where you have a lot of creep spread, you got all of the workers you need for the rest of the game, and you can start maxing out your army. We'll see why TaeJa is allowing this, though. He could have gone for a 2-base timing push. Instead, he decides to go for the 4th command center very quickly here as well. Hellions there will all be surrounded, so no more creep tumor denying on that side. And even though there are some siege tanks right here on the left, or I guess in the top corner of the map, I don't know, they're not going to be able to achieve too much, I don't think, right? I mean, look at the amount of Zerg here. Queens once again moving forward, taking the a majority of those siege tank hits. That's beautiful play. We saw that actually in the previous game as well, right? Scarlett very confidently moving forward with the queens, and she shuts this down immediately as well. I love that though, right? She purposely saves up a lot of energy on these queens to just simply have them take the siege tank hits and then transfuse them back up to full health. And that means that even though the Zerglings and the Banelings can get one-shot by siege tanks, if the queens are the ones taking the siege tank hits, I mean, that was a really cool play. Very confidently moving forward there. She did that in the previous game too, actually. I always look at that siege tank positioning and I get a little bit anxious, but apparently none of that going down so far here for our Zerg player. Very, very well aware of when exactly you can push into a Terran army like that. Well, apparently she's feeling generous though. These Banshees are going to be able to fly for a little while longer. Anyways, Hive coming up. We see the transition right now towards additional Thors as well. So here's what Thors do in these kind of scenarios. Thors essentially make it so that Zerg players have to magic box their mutas. And what that means is that you want to have them as spread out as possible. You do not want to have them clumped up like, for example, they are right now, because the Thor splash damage is ridiculous. Also, Thors have a very high air priority, so basically they will favor hitting air units over ground units pretty much all the time. So if the mutas are even clumped up for a second, with the 11 range they have right now in the most recent patch, there's so much work they can do. While this Terran army is moving out though, we see a lot of Lings and Banes making their way towards that 4th command center. 4th command center is being target fired down. 11, or rather 9 SCVs there ended up getting killed, but TaeJa still manages to clean that up with ease. A lot of lost mining time actually there though for Terran, but I don't know if that really was value. Should we have a look at the units lost? Yeah, Zerg most definitely losing a lot more there than the Terran player. Alright. Now what this did do though is buy enough time. +2/+2 finished up right now for Scarlett. She's immediately gonna go into +3/+3 as well as Adrenal Glands. And while she will have to force this Terran army away, I think she's got enough units to still go ahead and do so anyway. Mostly comes down to those Widowmine connections. She is really aggressive with the Lings and Banes off creep. This makes me a little scared though. Right? That didn't work out in her favor previously. It's just that TaeJa is so good at micro, it's super hard to get a favorable trade against him on creep, let alone off creep. Anyway, I guess she doesn't really want Terran players to have 4 bases in this scenario. We, by the way, see the Ultralisk Cavern coming up. Okay. So, Ultras obviously did get a bit of a buff very recently as well. Their movement speed off creep used to be increased by 10% with their new upgrade. Right now it's increased by 20%, which is actually very noticeable. It makes them far better at chasing down Marine Marauder-based army in particular, and I kind of like this idea quite a bit. Anyways, here we go. Once again, Zerg moving off creep. Look at the Thors! Look at the Thors! Ooh, just one set of Javelin missiles right there going on those mutas. That already took a lot of those mutas to orange hit points. 17 of them still remain though. TaeJa being very patient. I don't remember TaeJa being this patient back in the day. What happens is that immediately Zerg goes for the counterattacks, right? There you go. Love those Widowmine positions, not gonna lie. They certainly did get a lot of kills as well, but still more than enough units remain to go after some of those workers right here in that third base of Terran. Is there burrow available right now for Zerg? There is no burrow, so she cannot go ahead and burrow a couple of those units and be annoying a little while later. The mutas, though, apparently found a bit of time right now to move across the map as well. Terran's still posturing in the center of it. Ling Bane armies just being improved, and actually at this point, there's not that much anti-air over here. So Scarlett finally finding the value with the mutas that she's looking for. And that's the scary thing about mutas for Terran, right? Well, that's a lot of missile turrets. Mutas can easily make their way back home again as well. This did buy enough time for Ultras to come out, but they don't have chitinous plating and +3 armor just yet. Look how much damage they take. Once they get those upgrades, all of a sudden they are significantly more tanky. 17 SCVs going down. The mutas look like they are retreating back home. The hatchery still stands. And actually, +3 carapace finished up. We see the chitinous plating finishing here in just a little bit as well. Once that finishes, there's a really good shot for Scarlett to take this engagement and absolutely smash the Terran player. Still though, Lynx and Banes making their way across. And TaeJa, I think he may have been just a little bit too patient, right? One of the differences that you see between, for example, a Innovation or a Maru and then TaeJa right here is that they are a lot more decisive with their unit movement. They seem to be a lot more decisive when it comes to calling engagements, I suppose. I feel like TaeJa is maybe playing a little bit too patiently here. And once again, right? Scarlett is not gonna slow down on the harassment here. She's just simply posturing with units on the right-hand side. Or I guess the bottom lane of the map. This always feels like the right-hand side to me. But anyways, she's just simply posturing over here while still continuously moving forward. So look at this, right? These Ultras, while they will indeed get picked off, there's no denying that they still got themselves a lot of actions required. I mean, a lot of the Terran actions are going to be forced in order to pull this off. There we go, though. A transition right now towards Infestors. Scarlett looking to get those juicy fungal growths. If you get the fungal growth on all of those Terran units, they have an easy time getting picked off by the Ultralisk. But TaeJa is still maxed out. Here's the thing though, TaeJa hasn't been able to pick up a 5th base just yet. And at this point in the game, I'm starting to get a little bit worried for that, because this almost is looking like an all-in right now. Gotta be careful though. Ooh, there's so many Widow Mines. Whew. The thing is, sure, this hatchery might be picked off, but there's already another hatch in the bottom right-hand corner waiting to be mined from. And Terran, while having a really strong army over here, is gonna run out of resources here eventually. Scarlett doesn't necessarily need that base. And once again, a lot of SCVs are being picked off. I wonder if she actually wants to get rid of these mutas right now. Look at the bank, right? Look at the bank that she has. There are indeed a lot of resources waiting to be spent right here for Scarlett as well. We'll have to keep an eye out right here on what she wants to reinforce this with. Greater Spire now coming up as well for our Zerg player. Man, she's getting a lot of value here though, right? The Ultras are essentially forcing out more and more Marauders. And obviously, if there's more Marauders, it means that there's going to be less Marines. And that means the mutas all of a sudden are going to be more powerful again. So even though you don't really want to have the mutas in the Ultra late game, that certainly was still a lot of damage dealt once again. 16 SCVs going down, 43 in total in this game. And still no 5th command center. So the 5th CC is done, but where are you going to land it? Are you going to land it over here? Are you going to land it over there? I feel like Zerg is going to be all over that. Regardless, Corruptor's now coming up. +3 weapons. Right here for those flyers as well. Normally, Brute Lords don't start with +3 when they come out, right? Or I guess +2 in this case. This is certainly going to be a really strong, scary fight. But it looks like this may very well take place before Brute Lords are out. One Ultra there does get picked off. Thor's actually surprisingly good when it comes to dealing with both Ultras as well as those Brute Lords. So we'll see where Scarlett is going to take this, because she hasn't really seen any Viking play just yet. So she immediately queues up 9 of those Brute Lords as well. No Liberators, no Ghosts, not a lot of Thors. I mean, we see a couple goes right now, but there's very, very little to counter Brute Lords with right now. This is a very scary Zerg army, right? People oftentimes talk about, like, the Protoss Death Bowl. This kind of feels to me like a Zerg Death Bowl. I guess what this can do, though, is that while Scarlett is occupied right here in the top lane of the map, a part of the army can split off right now and go after the base in the bottom right-hand corner instead. And that's exactly what's going on. Scarlett already anticipating that as well, though. 5th Command Center right now being acquired. That one's really critical to keep an eye out for. But look at this. Oh, the Widowmine drop! Oh, oh my... Dude, she may very well be hit by Widowmines right there. I love the idea here from TaeJa, but big fungal growths allow these Ultras to close the distance relatively easily. Still, though, that Planetary does not mess around. It's got 59 kills in total. The Thor's now boosting forward. They're feeling brave enough to go after all of those Brute Lords. Scarlett, all of a sudden, is finding herself on the retreating end of that engagement. But while that's going on, the Zerglings and the Ultras are swarming towards the previously, I guess we can call this the 3rd base of the Terran. I mean, that one is completely gone right now, and I think reinforcing Zerg units should be more than enough to deal with all of these all of these Terran units right here as well. Wonderful game here by Scarlett. I mean, the decision-making does seem a little flimsy from time to time, but she is absolutely overwhelming her opponent, and I love this swarmy style. Look. There's only a couple Marines remaining. These Brute Lords are going to be an absolute nuisance. We see the Infestors now joining the fray as well. The Zerglings engaging right here at the perfect time as well. And they are going to be able to pick up all of those Marauders with ease. 3rd base completely gone. Natural mined out. Main base mined out. And even the 4th base is going to start running very low on resources here. That means that the last mining base here for TaeJa is really going to be right over here. I think if somehow, some way, Scarlett knows that this is happening, she doesn't know at this point, but if she would figure it out right now and just focus her attacks over in that direction, she's gonna be in a very, very good position. I love this. It feels so swarmy, right? This is kind of like how Zerg feels in StarCraft 1. Just overwhelm your opponent with sheer units and just sheer numbers. I love it. The Brute Lords, they are just simply ignoring the base for now. They don't really care too much. Lynx, Banes, Infestors, Mutas, Corruptors, Overseer, like basically all the Zerg units, right? It's like she's trying to create all of the Zerg army. Oh, the Banelings trying to connect with some more of those. And while indeed Terran has decided to not fight that Zerg force head on, instead they're gonna go after the base in the bottom right, they are losing their main base as we speak. I mean, sure, I think Scarlett will lose a base like this gladly. She doesn't really care too much about that. Still though, she hasn't found this hatch or this command center mining over there. I think she should know that, right? Well, she knows now. Okay, she did find out about it. I was gonna say, that seems like such an obvious base to take at this point, but alright, here we go. A final stand for TaeJa. He doesn't want to lose this game. But the Zerg army is massive. Banelings right now rolling forward, trying to connect on those ghosts. Oh, good micro there though, by TaeJa, but still. Sometimes StarCraft 2 is just a numbers game. More and more Brute Lords are coming up here as well. We see a very heavy amount of Marines, very healthy amounts of snipes here as well. But the thing is, even if this whole army gets cleaned up, right? Even if this whole army disappears and these ghosts get the sickest value, Scarlett is still mining 3 times more than her opponent. And yeah, there's only so much you can make when you have a 1 base mining. So indeed, Scarlett manages to even up the score. Alrighty, so that will bring us to the final map of this series. We are now on Cerulean Fall LE. Spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map and playing with the red Terran SCVs, we have none other than TaeJa. And his opponent spawning in the opposite corner, playing with the pink Zerg drones. We have none other than Scarlett. Alright. Now I have to say though, a lot of StarCraft 2 pros, after they returned from their military service or after they took like an extended break, they generally speaking don't get back into the game and reach their previous skill level anymore. I mean, that's just simply what we have learned so far from players that have tried getting back into the game. I mean, some of them managed to do so, but I feel like TaeJa is doing a really, really good job. I mean, obviously he has been back for like probably about a half year or so right now, but he's been going toe-to-toe with some of the best players in the world, and I mean, I wonder if you give him another half year, right? Where is he going to take things? Is he going to be like as good as Maru? Is he going to be as good as like an innovation? Or is he going to hover around the same skill level right now and be like only a top 5 Terran or so in the world? Okay, maybe like top 10. I'm not entirely sure exactly where his skill level is right now, but I don't know. It feels to me that he's been improving very rapidly. Like these games are showing us some stellar games already, right? Like they're showing us some really solid gameplay. He is a little predictable though. I think that's one of the things that makes, for example, a Maru so scary. Maru has got some of the very best micro and macro in the world. And even though he has that, right? He's basically the complete Terran package. Even though he's as good as he is, he still cheeses very, very regularly. He will still put the barracks in the middle of the map if he wants to, just because he feels like he needs to win. I mean, I've mentioned it several times in the past, but last year at WESG, Maru ended up proxy 3-Rex rushing his opponent for $200,000. Final game of the series, he proxied... Like, who does that? Who cheeses if you're the best, like, micro and macro player in the world, basically, right? Who does that for that much money? Well, Maru is not scared to put it all on the line, and I think that's what makes him such a scary, scary player. I feel like TaeJa, and I guess innovation in a lesser sense as well, but they are a little predictable. I think that was actually one of the things that that people argued, you know, against innovation for a really long time. Innovation was like the least innovative player in the world, basically doing the same build every single game. And while I do think that worked maybe a couple years ago in StarCraft, since everyone just got really good right now, it's super hard to like, for example, right? Innovation used to win games because he had sheer numbers, like he had more stuff. And that was just because his macro was better than anyone else's. But while he still has some of the best macro in the world, that gap, I suppose, has closed, or at the very least, it's much smaller than it once was. So you're not going to be able to just simply win games off of sheer macro anymore alone. So I feel like you need to play, I guess, a strategy game. Crazy, guys. Lowko suggesting that in a real-time strategy game, you want to play strategic. Crazy stuff. No, but seriously though, like, it's a lot more strategy nowadays than it was a couple years ago. And I feel like TaeJa has become, you know, one of those players who does the same thing over and over and over again. And while that works really well on the ladder, I feel like if you're gonna play a series, it's hard to pull that off. So there we go. This is what I want to see, TaeJa. Oh my god, it's like he knew I was gonna bring it up. He's gonna go for the fusion core. Now, please don't tell me that this is gonna be for Liberator Ranged. I mean, look, Liberator Ranged is good too, and I still think it's a really solid build, but please tell me this is for Battlecruisers. I want to believe. I want to believe that Battlecruisers are gonna be the name of the game here. Man, also, I want to just be quiet and just listen to the music for a little bit. I swear if I played Terran all the time and this music would just be played relentlessly when playing my ladder games, I would never listen to my own music. Listen to it, man, it's so good. So good. Terran music in both StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 is so much better than the Protoss and the Zerg. There, I said it. Terran 3, Terran 1, the original. Dude. Even though my terrible cover wasn't particularly good, I still have to say, like, it's so iconic. Very nostalgic. Anyways, by the way, guys, even though I was giving you the beautiful, beautiful impression of that music, there is a Battlecruiser on the way. We see the Yamato cannon right now also being researched. So I am curious to see where this game is going to take us, because I think that TaeJa is looking to play a lot more aggressively here. Now, truth be told, even though Scarlett doesn't scout it in this game, she's not seen anything inside of the main, she should still have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. Keep in mind, we've seen Cloaked Banshees every game so far, right? So that means Spore Crawlers are going to be the name of the game, regardless. So she's got a lot of queens. How many queens is that? 7 queens so far in total. I'm looking at this right now and I'm not sure. I feel like maybe the Battlecruiser can deal some damage. There it is. But how exactly are you gonna, like, deal damage with it right now? It's like, whoop-de-doo, you killed 1 queen. Congratulations. I feel like these Hellions are much more of a threat. That's one of the things that a lot of the top-level Terran players will do. They will go for the bench, or rather the what's it called? The Battlecruiser in the main, and then the Hellions at the third, for example, while the Queens are preoccupied. Oh, Scarlett trying to get the wraparound, not quite happening just yet. At the same time, the Battlecruiser is now getting its connections inside of the main. Roaches are coming out here, so a different build here from Scarlett as well. Missile also being researched, but still, I don't mind this position here for our Zerg player so much. But this could hurt. This could hurt. Hellions moving in. Getting themselves... There you go. The barbecue they were looking for. And 14 workers go down. So that's the real threat, right? Because the Battlecruiser requires all of the Queens to jump into action, and because it is also like very action intensive, you have to keep on following it and you have to micro your units very intensely, it opens up the door for those Hellions to deal the damage. So even though the Battlecruiser here did get a couple kills as well, I feel like the big picture were those Hellions. So 16 workers go down in the grand scheme of things, and I like that a lot. I liked it a lot here for our Terrans. So this is exactly what I was saying, right? I want him to mix this kind of game up a lot more. So apparently, right now, even though I would definitely call him a bio-based player, he actually has decided to go for the double armory, which is an indication he's gonna go for a mech. This is good. Okay, I haven't really seen TaeJa do this before. So maybe he has already been diversifying his strategies a lot more. Cool. So we will indeed now see that mech switch. Now, differently than, for example, what we saw TY play a lot, or for example, Euthermal or Gumiho, he's gonna go for the much more traditional army based around mechanical units. So he's using the Battlecruiser right there to buy time to eventually max out on big Terran units. So he's gonna go for a lot of siege tanks, I think, here, maybe even go for some Cyclones, there you go, but not play that super mobile army. That's one of the things that we saw, for example, a Gumiho do, where he goes heavy Cyclones and he just plays really pushy with it. He just continuously denies bases and he expands all over the map. This is a much more passive version. Scarlett, though, doesn't want to let the game go the distance. She has decided to now bring all of the Queens that she made in response to the Battlecruiser towards the other side of the map as well. Now TaeJa, immediately using this potential here as well, he sends in the Hellions to watch that third base of Zerg to go after more and more worker kills as well. Beautiful drones, or rather beautiful SCV pool right there by Terran, buying as much time as possible. Obviously, we do now see a couple of those siege tanks falling here, but still, I don't mind this position for a Terran player so much. Zerg, though, is starting to kill a lot here, and that Battlecruiser is running dangerously low. Reinforcing Terran units should be able to clean all of this up, and I think, all things considered, this is certainly still a game where TaeJa can feel rather confident. But here's the thing. While we do see the last of these units all die, these Queens are not going to make their way back home. Here's the thing. The reason I think why Scarlett decided to go for this push is because this classic Terran army is scary when it maxes out. Right? If you go up to a point where this Terran army is maxed, and it's at 200 supply, and it's gonna be Battlecruiser, Siege Tank, Thor, Cyclones, Hellions, that kind of thing, it's super hard to beat. So, even though Scarlett did just end up losing a lot of drones, she bought herself a lot of time. And she's using that time to go straight up to 80 workers right here, so we see 80 plus workers. We also see a Hydra Den as well as an infestation pit. So it's gonna take at least a couple more minutes. The Terran army just doesn't max out that quick. It's gonna take a couple more minutes before TaeJa is really gonna be able to start piling on the pressure with siege tanks once again. Now it looks like TaeJa actually is anticipating this as well. He decides to now switch towards Mass Cyclone instead, but Scarlett has got more than enough to deal with that here. I like this a lot. By the way, that one Battlecruiser still at 20 kills here. It does not mess around. Alright, so we got ourselves a game. Wonderful. We got ourselves a really solid match. Neither player really had a clear advantage here. Both players trying their best to outsmart each other, but, you know, it's not quite happening just yet. The only thing I could really look at right here that I don't like as much for TaeJa is the amount of bases that he's got. Having that fourth base up right now is really critical, and I would even argue that you want to start up a fifth base relatively soon here. Because that's really where you can win this kind of game. Scarlett is likely going to go for a Roach Ravager army here, based with, I would say, Vipers, if I were to make a guess. Vipers and eventually Brute Lords are definitely the name of the game. Now, I like the lock-ons here a lot. But one of the key differences we saw those other Terran players that I mentioned several times make already is that they go for a heavy amount of expansions on the back of this as well. We'll see, though. Maybe TaeJa knows something that we don't know. I don't want to sound like that commentator that knows it all. I really dislike it when commentators do that. I try and not do that anyway, but... I guess I can look at these kind of games and still point out some things I don't like, right? Like, for example, with the main base running low, this is going to be mined out within a couple minutes. He's going to be in a similar situation that he found himself in the previous game, where he doesn't have enough eco to continue doing this. And Cyclone Hellion, it gets picked off very easily, right? It's all about trading cost efficiently, but that hasn't really happened that much yet. Battlecruiser, by the way, it ended up going down. The one hero bet... Wait, no. It's still there. Never mind. So, one Battlecruiser did get picked off. It's a second one. Oh my god, did I just get memed? I thought it was the same Battlecruiser all this time, but it's not the case. Maybe this one is fresh. Well, it's got already 20 kills, so it's not. Oh my god, I thought they were the same. They all look the same to me, guys. There, I said it. They all look the same to me. No, but seriously though, that was still a lot of value here out of that Battlecruiser opener. Alright, so there we go indeed. Viper's coming up. Scarlett gonna go into the heavy Hydra-based army right now as well, going into a bunch of Zerglings to try and get the wraparound, I'm assuming. And then obviously with Abduct, you can get rid of those Cyclones with relative ease. Still though, those lock-ons are wonderful, and TaeJa is showing us that micro that he's well known for. Still no 5th base! The 5th command center only just now coming up. I feel like... that's the thing. Like, if you have this Cyclone Hellion army... you are forcing Zerg in a defensive posture, and you have basically all the time in the world to try and take another base. This hatchery could have, or this command center could have already been up here. Like, look, right? Immediately, Zerg was trying to make a move across the map, and as soon as his army gets spotted, she's forced to turn back around. Zerglings right now going with the counterattack. I don't think they're going to achieve all that much. Ooh, those siege tanks, though. I like this a lot, right? A couple siege tanks right there in the mix. Scarlett trying to abduct those units, but those tanks are getting some damage in. They're actually going to move forward a little bit more. That one is going to be able to hit the mineral line there. Battlecruiser now joining the fray too, because obviously, while it was a pretender, it is not going to be like the old one. I guess she can abduct it. There you go. Pick it off! And indeed, the Battlecruisers do all end up dying. All of them. All 2 of them. Incredible. Alright. So now we get to the point where this army is starting to be rather efficient though, in particular with more of those drones going down. When you think about it, right, if you're fighting so aggressively, Zerg can't really commit any more resources to making drones right now. I mean, she's trying to squeeze a couple of them out, but it's pretty expensive to go ahead and do so. Still, I don't really know if this is the best position for this Terran army to hang out in. I think that one is dead. Pretty sure it is. And eventually all of those units do get killed. Okay, 5th command center finally joining us. Where do we go from here? So, okay, I love this. Mass Battlecruiser switch right now. This is what we saw, what game was that? TY versus Dark on Parasite LE. I'll go ahead and leave a link to that video down below in case you want to see it. We saw TY attempt something very similar where he went mass Battlecruiser. That was such a sick game. That was one of the best games of ZVT I've ever seen. I don't want to spoil it for you. But he did show us that Battlecruisers do have a lot of potential, but they're also very risky to play. If your opponent gets enough Corruptors out, they can just kill them with ease, and if Tactical Jump is on cooldown, you end up losing them for free, it's basically the end of the game. You have to be extremely cautious, but so far, Zerg hasn't really shown any great Aspire play just yet, and here we go! The Battlecruisers jumped across the map, they're gonna go after the hatchery, not even target fire down the drones, and they do end up killing it as well. I love this, and now he's using this time that he's created himself to expand on the map. I like this a lot. Zerg though is still maxed out. Ooh, well, Tactical Jump, there you go, get him. Did they actually jump across the map? I don't think so, I think they just flew over there. Oh, man. Alright. So now all of a sudden, Scarlett is in an awkward position. She did not expect those BCs to come out. Still 2 of them being produced, guys. Oh, man. Look at that. 6 Battlecruisers at this point in the game. 2 more are going to join us in just a little bit. We see the transition right now from Hydra-based focus right here to a lot of Infestors as well. And she is getting herself Neural Parasite. If you can take control of the Battlecruisers, right? You neural them. You can... Oh, I'm getting chills already. The potential here is ridiculous. In particular, when they get like maxed out like that. Maxed out Battlecruisers are super scary. They deal so much damage. Air weapons +1 finally coming up here for Zerg, but obviously that's not gonna even be remotely similar to that of the Terran. A lot of Vipers though, once again, looking for those abducts. There you go, beautifully done there by Scarlett, getting a really good hit, but while that's happening, the Battlecruisers come up as well, but here we go. Neuroparasite is done, right? No, it's not done, never mind. It's like 10 seconds from finishing. I guess we do see the fungal growth right here. Here's the thing, when your units are fungal, they can actually not jump away. So all movement that is done by an ability cannot be utilized anymore when your units are fungal. So even though she could not neural the units there, she did end up getting at least one of them killed. But still, looks like it is not dissuading TaeJa right now. Look at that. Getting himself 3 of those Battlecruisers at once. I love it. I love it. So sick. He's expanding all over the map. I kind of feel... Let me know down below if you think I'm right, okay? I think you could play a lot more aggressively here when it comes to expanding. If you play Cyclone Hellion, just take the whole map. Just take it all. Get yourself that sick eco. Go up to like 100 workers. Okay, maybe 100 is a little much. 80 workers, which he's at right now. But still, like... I kind of felt like he could have been there a little bit earlier. Anyway. This Zerg army, though, it does not mess around. I know I'm hyping up this Battlecruiser army quite a bit. But Viper, Hydra, Infestor is a super, super gas-heavy army. And it is one of the very strongest in the game. I kind of would like to even see like an addition of a couple Corruptors here and maybe Battlecruisers as well. Or Brute Lords as well. So I think even going for a second Spire right now is not a bad idea. Because if you have a second Spire, you can start double upgrading. You will be able to get yourself those Corruptors out at some point as well. Like, basically, oftentimes what happens is that this Terran army will trade wonderfully the first time around, and then the Zerg reinforcements clean it up, right? And if you're going to reinforce this army, you have to fight Battlecruisers. I think you want to reinforce with a lot of Corruptors. So getting those double upgraded right now, I think would be super, super good. Anyways, we'll see where this game is going to take us. I love it, though. TaeJa, basically, like, if you draw a line from this point in the map towards this part of the map, right? They basically took all of the bases, other than the ones in the center, for themselves. So we have a split map scenario right now. I love it. One Battlecruiser jumping towards the top left-hand corner of the map. This is gonna force a reaction. Not much this army can really do against it right now. And this is so annoying for Zerg, right? Look, the Vipers and the Infestors are left on the right-hand side, but a lot of damage is being done. Do you just make a ton of Spore Crawlers? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, there you go. Good abducts there. Even getting the blinding cloud on it as well to get rid of those siege tanks. They're not getting a single shot off in their lives. One of them right there, a little angry. He's like, no, you didn't kill my brothers. Yes, we did. And is that a missile turret? Wow. TaeJa even getting himself that really strong siegeable location. He's moving very cautiously. I kind of would like to see Ravens added here as well. He's trying to get... Oh my god! He's trying to get himself those, what are they called? Yamato guns right there on the Vipers. Not gonna happen. One of the Battlecruisers right there betrays his brethren, and here we go. The Zerg army is engaging. We see all of those fungals coming up, and then followed up with abducts and neural parasites. So much damage being done here by our Zerg player, but the question is it going to be enough? I'm looking at the supply count right now, and TaeJa is still looking very healthy. Keep in mind, though, that Zerg army is very, very easy to replace. However, that was still a lot of losses there on the side of Zerg. And the Battlecruisers, I mean, they went down, but the siege tanks do remain. And this is requiring, this is allowing right now for Scarlett to transition as opposed to those Brute Lords as well. So this is very much so an undiscovered part of StarCraft, okay? Like, we see all of these units coming out. Yeah, the siege tanks see that there are going to be a bunch of those Brute Lords, and they don't really want to be sieged up anymore. They know that they're going to be much more mobile when they're unsieged, and they should be able to take care of that base really quickly. It's almost like a bunch of immortals shooting at a hatchery, right? This is not something you see very often, but good luck chasing down unsieged tanks with Brute Lords. They're about as quick. Not going to happen. Well, unless they get themselves stuck in the top left-hand corner. Then it is going to happen. But while that's going on, though, while those Brute Lords are getting distracted, I suppose, We see another Terran army moving right here on the right-hand side. Scarlett getting, once again, a great set of corrosive biles. I want to just really compliment Scarlett right here on how well she's controlling this. This is a super hard army to control. The Brute Lords are finally here. The Vipers tried to slow down some of those units as well. Brute Lords now forced to turn around, and I think that this hatchery may very well end up falling because of it. One hero Brute Lord left behind, but the hatch is already gone. And still, TaeJa is mining a lot more. You know what? I think I actually favor TaeJa's positioning right here. 5 Battlecruisers at once. Are you kidding me? Even though Scarlett has shown well-upgraded Corruptors, and she has shown a very strong unit composition to fight those Battlecruisers with, TaeJa doesn't care. Alright. We'll see where this game is going to take us. I want the Battlecruisers to win so badly. I'm sorry, guys. I try and be unbiased, but man, look at that, the tactical jump right on top of all of those units. Immediately, the Yamato cannon is being utilized on as many of those units as possible. There are a lot of infested Terrans on the ground. Those were thrown down very, very quickly, but still, that is a very healthy amount of Zerg units that end up dying. TaeJa knows that his opponent is not mining that much. That means that these Battlecruisers can make their way towards this base right over here as well, and if they can kill the workers there real quick, obviously the damage is almost guaranteed. As long as you don't lose the Battlecruisers, this is gonna be great. And Scarlett, I mean, you may look at that and think that that was a little bit of an early GG, but Scarlett, she did not have a bank anymore. Her bases were killed left and right, and TaeJa was maxing out on Battlecruisers. I love that. That is such a difficult decision to make though, right? Do you really want to jump across the map with all your Battlecruisers and risk it? I guess it worked in his favor this time. But I feel like when you're practicing that, you make the mistake 1,000 times of jumping when you probably shouldn't have. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you're a fan of StarCraft, I'm sure you did. Hit that like button if that's the case. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you enjoy these casts, because I do upload several every single week. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day, okay? Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one.